famous among rap fans as the rough neighborhood of the late rapper Shorty Low. There was a drive-by shooting in the weeks before the fire that sent Phillips to the hospital, but there was also the local dry cleaner shop that had kept track of Phillips' disability card for safekeeping and helped him buy groceries for a while. And there was the Black Bankhead homeowner, James Lewis Lovelace III, who had recently gotten Phillips off the street. After first putting a couch on the front porch for him, Lovelace had eventually taken him in, letting him sleep in a bedroom. That homeowner, Lovelace, had a complex personal story himself. He was born and raised in Atlanta and grew up with little privilege. By his early 40s, he was spending his afternoons and nights running a small barbecue stand next to a gas station. He had been in and out of prison. He had children. He had dreams. He had fought hard for everything he had and was willing to share it. And then, one night, everything he had was gone. 9 days later, Tandria Dixon was visiting her cousin in Washington, D.C. It was a much-needed break from the one-stoplight town in North Carolina, where she lived with her mother to save money. The last few years had been trying for Tandria. When she finished graduate school, earning a master's in industrial technology, she was left with significant student debt. Then her father died. She kept trying to move forward, but the jobs she took wore her down to the point where she fainted on a warehouse floor. A move to the Atlanta area made her life so expensive. She couldn't save money. Then the pandemic hit. She set up a company to be an entrepreneur, and not gaining traction, she reversed course. COVID-19 struck her family. She ended up moving back to North Carolina to live with her mother. It was her 33rd birthday, and Tandria had split from her cousin for a solitary outing to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. She'd been once before, but she hadn't seen it all. Now, she felt a pull to go back. She felt the work she was trying to do to change the trajectory for herself and her family demanded that she remember the steps of her forebears. She took out her cell phone to photograph the things in the museum that caught her attention. First, she photographed a map of the major ports of the slave trade, including a harbor in the Carolinas where her family had long lived. Then she spotted a section of the museum on the business of the slave trade and moved in. Tandria was endlessly interested in the intersection of race and money. To pick a bale of cotton, the labor of enslaved Americans fueled the rapid growth of the national economy. A sign read, "African Americans, often malnourished and sleep-deprived, used extraordinary skill to catapult the United States into the global economy." She saw historic advertisements for the enslaved. Jesse, aged about 20 years, fine field hand, can pick 500 pounds cotton, invaluable boy. One ad from 1855 read, "Snap, snap." She wanted all these on her phone. Another title card noted that slavery harnessed to cotton created wealth, and wealthy Americans created tools to protect and expand upon their investments. The Bank of the United States sold bonds and slaves that helped finance roads, levees, canals, and railroads. Insurance companies sold policies to guarantee the soundness of enslaved people's bodies. Even the U.S. Postal Service played a role by delivering financial news around the world regarding the price of enslaved African Americans. Another title card, $2,500,000. That was the amount of slave-based bonds that European investors had purchased in just the year 1828. Another, $25,700,000. That was the amount of slave-backed mortgages that banks had issued in Louisiana in just 1859. Mounted to the wall was a weathered piece of paper from the mid-1860s, when the federal government granted land to some formerly enslaved people. The document showed details of land given to a black man in Georgia in a program that has become known as 40 Acres and a Mule. But this man and others would soon lose their land. The government reneged on the land grant soon afterward. "I just feel this pulling to be at the museum," Tandria explained to us. "This pull and this desire to be here. I'm preparing to own my own property, trying to change the trajectory for myself and my family. I'm back in this one."